All right, we are so thrilled to have my dear spirit brother and friend, Gregg Braden. He's a 5-time New York Times best-selling author. It's a little. Scientist, educator, and pioneer in the emerging paradigm, bridging science, social paradigm, and human potential. And today, he's talking about the power of everyday divinity, because that's a really good subject.
Yeah.
Hooray, hooray.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, David. Can you guys bring it up? Do you have a rule that your speakers have to be in the chair?
Nope, you can
And how
wander,
much,
meander,
how much cable do we have here?
not much.
Will it go over here?
Yeah.
Let's try it right there, so I can.
There you go.
Dance.
Yes.
I can dance?
Yeah.
I can dance. There we go. I want that there because I want to say hello to our streaming audience and
Yes,
everyone.
there they are.
You guys see me okay? Yeah. Good morning. I'm going to begin with an apology because I was supposed to be here a couple of. It looks like an earthquake on the other
I
end.
know.
I was supposed to be here a couple of weeks ago, and I was excited to be here, and I fully intended to be here, and I woke up Saturday morning. I felt good, and my voice took a vacation. So, and I knew that it was not going to come back by Sunday morning. So I called or wrote to Jenny. I couldn't talk to her. And so that's what happened. So for those of you that didn't get that message, you were expecting to see me a couple of weeks ago, I apologize and thank you. Thank you for being here today. Wow, you all are my neighbors. You probably don't know that because you don't see me here in town very much. But my original home is right up there in Cuesta, and it's still up there in Cuesta. Needing some stucco and needing some well work, and I'm going to be busy in September. When, I think the timing is probably perfect because we live in a world that has changed since two weeks ago.
Yay.
When Jenny asked me, she invited me to come up. What we do in here, I want to be relevant when you walk out that door out there. So often we come to spiritual gatherings, you do really cool things, and community is so important. And Jenny, I want to thank you for being such a hub for the community that has always been important, and it is more important than ever. You all know this is no ordinary time in the history of anything, in the history of our planet, in the history of our civilization, in the history of our nation. It's no ordinary time, and we could do a whole talk about what it is that makes it so extraordinary, but we don't need to. You just know that this is no ordinary time. And what we do in here, I want to make sense within the context of the world out there. What I want to say to you is that everything that's happening in the world out there is not separate from what we're doing in here. It cannot be. And I want to give you a context. Don't want to dwell on it. But I want to share with you a context. I want to say something to you. You're not going to see it on the 6 o'clock news or White House press briefing or anything like that. But it's important because you and I are part of an ancient battle that has been unfolding since the first of our kind walked this earth. We're in a spiritual community, so we can use these terms. It is a fundamental battle between good and evil. You all know that. Sometimes it plays out in ways that we would never see. It's invisible. We don't know it. Sometimes it becomes kinetic in ways that are very obvious and we cannot look away from. What I want to say to you is everything that's happening in the world, it's important. We need to talk about it in kindness. We need to find ways to come together in kindness. What I'm finding, and not just here, I've traveled all over the world in the last few months. Well, before I was writing the book in the last few months. What I'm finding is this, that many people are allowing the events of the world out there to become distractions from the essence of what this battle is really all about. And what I want to say to you is it's not about borders. And it's not about race, and it's not about money, and it's not about power, and it's not even about greed. It's about you. You are the prize. And I want to tell you why, and that's what we're going to talk about today, because there is something deep inside of you that is so beautiful, so ancient, so powerful, so sacred, that nations will go to war with other nations to keep you distracted from the power that lives within you. Armies will level armies, societies will collapse, financial systems will break, diseases will be unleashed, lives will be embraced. All that's true. What is it within us that could possibly wield so much significance that worlds would work so hard to keep this secret within you veiled from your conscious awareness? It's not a battle for your thoughts. It's not a battle for your beliefs. It's more than that. It is a battle for your very humanness. And mine too, because we're in this together. There's a battle for our humanness, or more precisely, it is through our humanness that we access our divinity. In this physical world, it is through these beautiful, and you said this so beautifully, Jenny, this magnificent gift that we were given, and I want to talk to you about the gift. We were given the gift of this body as the conduit to bring something alive in this earth plane, in this sensual reality where we get to eat chocolate and see rainbows and hold one another and laugh and cry together. You can't do that if you're not in a body. Something so precious about this body. It's through the human body that we access this ancient force that is called divinity, that very, very few people are talking about from this perspective right now. So let me just begin by defining divinity, because when I began working with this and researching some of the ancient and Gnostic texts, what I found was that many people associate divinity with religion, or even religious practices. And I can see why. There are schools of divinity where they teach divinity in that respect. But let me share something. If you've never heard this, I think you're going to like this. The definition of divinity, if you go to look up the definitions of divinity, the definition of divinity is the ability to transcend perceived limitations. And that's it. The ability to transcend perceived limitations. There's something in that. Let's break that down. First of all, the ability to transcend. To transcend becomes more than, not just to survive the challenges that life brings to your doorstep, to become more than those challenges, to transcend perceived limitations. They may not even be real. The limitations that we place upon ourselves, or that our society, or our family, or our religion, or our culture, or our science places upon us, they may not even be real. There's something inside of you that is so powerful and ancient. It has the ability to become more, to transcend the challenges, the perceived limitations that come to your doorstep. This is the definition of divinity. Divinity is not in your conscious mind. It's not even in your subconscious mind. It's something that is called superconscious. Your divinity is the part of you that is timeless. It is all-knowing. It is your imagination. It's your creativity. These are all facets of your divinity. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Some of you know Martha, my wife Martha, is a voting member of the Grammys. And a few years ago, they had the Grammys in New York City instead of LA, where they usually have them. And she invited me. She said, "You want to go to some of the festivities?" And I said, sure. And I took the opportunity to talk to some of the most amazing and creative artists. And I hesitate because some of them are songwriters, some are musicians, some were sound engineers, all of these creative people. And I asked them all the same question. And I said, when those amazing lyrics came through you for that song, or when you wrote that amazing piece of music, I said, how did that happen? Where did it come from? And you all know what I'm going to say, because everyone, not one deviated. Everyone said the same thing. It didn't come from me. Where'd it come from?
Through
It came through me from somewhere else. It didn't come from me. I stepped out of the way. I moved my ego and my expectations out of the way and became a clear and open conduit, a channel for this gift that I have brought to the world. And I'm saying this is a facet of divinity. It's not just musicians. I was a problem solver in Fortune 500 companies during the Cold War years, during the defense industry years when I was working. And it's the same thing, that the engineers, the software developers, the mathematicians, and they created a beautiful, eloquent equation that was not just worked, but it was just beautiful in the symmetry of what it was. And I'd ask them, and they'd say the same thing. It came through me. There's something within you that is so powerful that there are organizations and people and societies that have been developed to veil this part of you from your conscious self. Why? Because when you embrace your divinity, you are less vulnerable as an individual to the ideas and the agendas of other people. When you embrace your divinity, you are less vulnerable to fear. The less you fear, this is the key. The better we know ourselves, the less we fear change in the world. Well, our world's going to change. It's not going to stop. The better we know ourselves, and our divinity is a powerful part of knowing ourselves, the less we're going to fear change in the world. The better you know yourself, the less you're going to fear other people. And what's happening now is civilizations and religions are being mushed together. Where we used to be separated by borders and oceans, we're all being mushed together. And there is a fear of the unknown, of people and religion and cultures that we didn't grow up with, we're not familiar with. But here's the key. This is why I'm saying this to you. The better you know yourself, the less you will fear your own power. The better you know yourself, the less you will fear your own power. If you ever needed your own power, I can't think of a better time than right now to bring that power forward. This battle that is unfolding, you don't have to know about it, but I want you to know the context of everything that's out there. Because you and I, we leave here today, I don't know what this week is going to look like ahead or next week. We know it's going to be a wild ride. And what I want you to bear in mind is please don't be deceived, because deception is so much a powerful part of what's happening. Don't be deceived. Don't be distracted by those events to the degree that you forget your own divinity. How do you win the battle? It's a trick question, because you don't want to win the battle, because if you win a battle, it means you're fighting and you don't want to fight. This is the ancient trap that keeps us stuck in the hate and the suffering and the fear. When you fight and you lower yourself, you succumb to the ideas and the fears of those that want to steal your power from you. When you fight, you've lost. What we choose to do, it's not fight, it's triumph. We want to triumph in our divinity. How do you do that? This is the easy, beautiful part. You triumph by living the best version of yourself. You triumph by living the fullest expression of what divinity means you. What does your creativity mean for you? What is your imagination? What is your innovation? Maybe on a more personal level. In your embrace of your divinity, you are empowered to love fearlessly. How many of you have ever looked another human in the eye or felt them in your heart? And yeah, you love them, but you always keep a little bit back for yourself, just in case, just because. It's our conditioning to be afraid and not fear. Or forgiveness. In your divinity, you forgive without the expectation of anything coming back to you. I know people right now tell me, oh yeah, man, I'm all about this forgiveness, but nobody wants to acknowledge it. And they're expecting the world to honor them in some way or to acknowledge them in some way. I don't know what's going to happen in the world, but I do know this. There is a battle for our humanness, and it's waging in ways that are so slick with the marketing that is appealing to our young people to give their power away to technology, to AI, to computer chips, to machines. And now you and I are facing a world between now and the year 2030. We will be encouraged to accept technology into our bodies, not just to make us function better, but to change who we are. This has never happened in the history of humankind. Think about it. We've always had technology out there to help us do things better. You know, I wore my glasses to drive up here. That's a form of technology. And people in the canyon are probably glad that I did. But what's happening now is we now have the technology to change the world within us. I don't have my glasses on, so how long?
You got 25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay. To change the world within us. And I want you to know why this is so important. Because it is through your humanness and my humanness that we have access to our divinity in this sensual world. If we were not in the bodies, you'd be divine, you'd have your divinity. But we walk this earth, our bodies are tuned to something. And that tuning, the science is only beginning to understand. This isn't a metaphor, this is physics. It is rock solid physics. When you look at the ancient texts in the scriptures, and they talk about temples, within the innermost sanctum of the ancient temples, the holiest place was called what? You guys know, what is it? It's the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies was the innermost sanctum of the temples. Within you, your Holy of Holies is the DNA in every cell in your body. And this is why those of you that read the Bible, 1 Corinthians 3, chapter 3, verse 16, know ye not that ye are the temple of God. You are the temple. You are the temple, literally, because within every cell in your body is the Holy of Holies, the DNA. And that DNA, and this is rock solid physics. I usually do this with pictures and slides. So I'm doing this, I'm seeing in my mind, I don't know if you're seeing in my mind or not, but if I had the pictures, I could show you. What science has now found is that DNA functions, literally, it functions as a fractal antenna. Your DNA is tuned to something. What is it tuned to? It's tuned to the part of us that is timeless and ageless and ancient and cannot be captured as ones and zeros on a computer chip. That's the part of us that allows our divinity to come through in our bodies. When you embrace a technology inside of you that changes that DNA, from the ancient perspective, what you are doing is you have invaded the Holy of Holies. You've changed that DNA, you've changed the antenna. The question is, what are you now tuned to? This is part of the battle. Because to the degree that you and I can be kept distracted and we can be kept in fear, we are not accessing our divinity for the deep truth of our creativity, our imagination. We are made to create. We came here to express. And all of you, every one of you do it in your own unique ways, whatever that is. Art, music, dance, poetry, engineers, gardening, raising children. I just heard about some new children in the world today, and I want to thank everybody that's making babies. I just had a conversation with a very well-known, worldwide known, respected biologist, and I was amazed. He or she, I want to honor who this is. I don't want to say any names. When I had this conversation with he or she, they were stuck in the ideas of the 1970s that said there's too many people on this earth. That simply is not true. We have dropped below the replacement rate, 2.1 babies per human woman, just to keep the population level. We're below that now. We're about to go off of a population cliff. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Infertility in men, because of hormonal disruption, all kinds of things we could talk about that. Women, fertility issues. It's taken women sometimes multiple attempts, multiple miscarriages to achieve a successful conception and carry that baby full term. We need those babies. So thank you. If you're making them, if you're not, that's going to be your homework when we finish here. Either go make one or find one somewhere and raise it. And if you've got young people, encourage them. And I want you to know, as a scientist, as a degree earth scientist, and with a background in chemistry, physics, biology, cosmology, what I can tell you is we have all the resources to honor every human life on this planet in a way that is equitable without destroying the planet, while still destroying the planet. We have that ability, we have that technology. These are other stories that we're being told, but it all comes back to us. It all comes back to us. There are societies, organizations that are alive and well today. Sometimes you don't see them much, sometimes they rear their ugly head. We're barreling down a path toward the year 2030 that has been identified as a convergence point for a whole bunch of stuff. It's a convergence point of ancient calendars. It's the convergence. Remember the 2012 Mayan calendar? Everybody thought 2012 was here and done. That 2012 calendar, when you go through a cosmic cycle shift, it doesn't stop on a dime. There's a buffer. It's a 36-year buffer, 18 years before and 18 years after. 18 years after 2012 is the year 2030. The UN has identified 2030 as the date where their new world vision must be in place. The WEF is working with the UN, and they're putting that in place. Financial systems are gearing for a shift in 2030. They're all looking at this 2030 window. And the reason I'm saying that to you is because you will see an intensification of the powers that be jockeying for position. It's not about money. They got what money they need. They don't care about the money. But they're jockeying for position. And that position, for them to accomplish that, they need to implement technologies that require us giving away parts of ourselves, our divinity, our freedoms. So when you see these things playing out, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, are the principles, are the policies that I'm seeing, are they embracing and allowing me to express my divinity and my freedoms, or are they denying those abilities to me? And I'm going to invite you to do this with kindness, and here's the reason. There's going to be a time, all this is going to be behind us. And we've got a date. We're going to be here. We're going to have a celebration when that happens. All this is going to be behind us. The dust will settle, and the world will be whatever the world is going to be. The question is, what have you become in the presence of the changes that you've just gone through? What did you, or what are you allowing those changes to make you into? What are you allowing those changes to do to your heart, to your soul, to your mind? Are the changes in the world triggering you to become something, a person that you would never choose to be in a million years? But you're succumbing to those. Now, when we engage in the world from these perspectives, sometimes we are passive, sometimes we have to be more active, sometimes we have to fight. We'll have a warrior within us, we all do. I think our humanness is worth preserving, and I think our divinity is worth preserving. And if we have to be confrontational to do that preservation, here's the key. Here's what I want to say to you about this. Is, do you engage those forces from the fear of what happens if you don't, or from the love of what you know is possible if you do? The outcome may be the same in the physical world, but your soul, your spirit, when all this is said and done, the end of all these cycles, we get back together and what have you become? And what have I become? And this is a question I have to ask myself every single day, because I'm engaged and people are engaging me. It's been a tough couple of months. They're engaging me internationally, they're engaging me domestically, governmentally, scientifically, because I'm talking about something a lot of people are not comfortable talking about. It all comes back to us. I'm going to say it one more time. There's something so rare and so beautiful. You need to hear this, and so precious and so ancient and so powerful, that lives within you as a human walking this earth. And it's not an accident that you and I are here. We are not the product of random mutations and lucky biology. and slow, gradual changes over a long period of time. I was taught that when I was in school in the 1950s, 1960s. That's what they told me. Now, I want to be really clear. I'm a degreed geologist. I believe in evolution. I've seen it in the fossil record when I did my field work in Colorado and New Mexico. I saw it for plants, animals, and insects. That theory breaks down when it comes to you and it comes to me. The theory breaks down. Something happened to us. We appeared mysteriously on this planet 200,000 years ago. Most scientists will agree with that date. 200,000 years ago, we showed up, and here's the key. Now that we can pull the DNA out of the fossilized remains of the beings that showed up then and compare them to us today, guess what? We haven't changed. We have the same DNA, we have the same genome. We appeared fully enabled, fully intact with an extended neural network, DNA that allows us to tune to our divinity. Neurons in the heart that we're going to use in just a few minutes to tune to that divinity. They didn't appear slowly, gradually. They were with us from the moment we appeared. There's a glare on the clock.
You're good,
Right?
15, you're good.
All right. So I'm going to do so. I've never done this without the slides, and I'm going to do this. I want you to know this, because I think this is, if I never see you again, and you go into the world and you think back to this day, I want you to think about what I'm going to say right now. When we look into those ancient texts, and they say that we are the temple, you know, a lot of that, when I was a kid, that just sounded like religious mumbo jumbo to me. Then when I began to read the Gnostic texts, and I understood what that meant, but I want to share with you the science. You all, I'm speaking to a well-read and knowledgeable audience, so I'm not going to go into the basics. But I think you all know that DNA is the blueprint for every cell in your body, you know that. And the DNA is made out of essentially 4 elements: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. That's it. Well, our ancestors left us a code, a key. And when we go into the root languages of humankind, those root languages of cuneiform, Sanskrit, Arabic, and Biblical Hebrew, the interesting thing about those languages is that they can be written as letters, and you all know that. Some of you also know they could be written as numbers. There are numbers that equate to every letter of every one of those ancient alphabets. Here's why those numbers are important. Because when you take the number of the letter and you apply that number to the periodic table of the elements in our DNA, it allows us to substitute the letters in the alphabets for the elements in the DNA. Does that make sense if I say that? When you do that, what we find is there is a message encoded into the DNA of every cell of your body. And I want to tell you what that message is. And there's an entire book. I wrote a book called The God Code 2004. I've got a bunch of videos on YouTube, Gregg Braden official, if you want to go out and see them, but you don't need to, because I'm going to say this to you right now. When you honor the principles and the laws and the rules of the ancient texts, and you honor the laws and the rules and principles of the best science of the modern world, those laws and rules allow us to make that substitution. There's an equivalence. Every letter in the alphabet is equivalent to an element in the periodic table. I know it's a way different way of thinking, but it tells us we're part of all that we see. When you make that substitution, the first layer of every strand of DNA in every cell in your body, literally, this isn't a metaphor, it literally reads the words God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body, and the name of God is the name. It's the same way it's written in our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, and it works in cuneiform, it works in Arabic, it works in Sanskrit, and it works in Hebrew, because it is universal. And when I first discovered this, it took 17 years for me to find this translation. And I thought, well, maybe it's just a fluke. And I asked my statistician friends, and they said the odds are 0.000246% that this is random. In other words, it appears to be intentional. 200,000 years ago, that's where I'm going to go with this. We emerged on this planet. We were given the gift of this physicality, this physical body. And for the 50 trillion cells that are in approximately every one of us, at the core of every one of those cells, the Holy of Holy in the temple, we were given the DNA, God eternal within the body, the fractal antenna that tunes us to the part of the field that connects all things that allows us to express our divinity. Our greatest gift to ourselves is to preserve the temple. The greatest gift that we can give to ourselves or our children is to take care of and honor and cherish the gift of our bodies so that we honor our relationship to the divine, to our imagination, our creativity, our innovation, our love, our forgiveness. And I think that is probably the highest form of mastery that any of us can achieve, is to make the choices in our lives. And before we leave here, I want us to know, let's find out for ourselves what those choices are. To make the choices that honor the gift, that best preserve this. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what's going to happen in the world. What I know is we're going to need to be the best version of ourselves we've ever been. We will all need to be healthier. We will need to have a greater sense of well-being. This is why community is so important. This community is so, you might think this is just a little Sunday gathering. Community is becoming vital. After COVID, after the lockdowns, when people were separated, and the depression and the suicides, psychologists had to rework the charts, and they said, okay, water is still number one on the chart. Food is just moved way down. You can go days without food, but you know what you can't go without is human connection. We need the human connection, whether it's virtual, all my virtual friends, or whether it's in a room like this. We need community. And through community, we reflect to one another, and we help to honor our divinities. What I'm saying, do you make sense? Just yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
So we are being invited, or in some cases, we're being pushed to the very edge of who we think we are. We're in it. And the only way out of it is to go through it. And the way to go through this little window, this isn't forever, this little window of time, is to be the best version of ourselves, to live the deep truth of what it means to be human, fully, fearlessly, loving, forgiving, innovating, imagining, creating, without succumbing to the fear, doing it from the love of what we know is possible in the world that's emerging, rather than from the fear of what happens if we don't. And there is a new world coming. You all feel that, right? Now, I don't know every one of you personally, but I know this. Let me just check in with you. We're so lucky to have Mirabai here. I'm just so honored that she's even in a chair in front of me, because I've known her for years. I don't see you much. I love your work. You gave me a gift of your books that are on my nightstand that I have read. I've lost track of how many times I've read them. And thank you for being here, and thank you for just all you do to make this work. I just have to say that, you're like feet away from me. A little starstruck, just a little bit. Because we share a publisher, sounds true. So when we awaken these potentials within us, and I know we're all going to be tapped to do it in whatever way it is. I don't know what that's going to look like. I want you to know that it's not just about having a bad day on the planet, that there is an event that is unfolding. And to the degree that you can live the best version of yourself, to that degree do you triumph over the forces of biological evil that want to veil and mask your divinity from you by stealing your humanity, by having you eat food that destroys your body, by having you in front of diversions of virtual realities and digital information that numbs your senses, by feeding you information through algorithms that reinforces your own phobias and your own fears and your own beliefs, that separate you from the people that you love, maybe at the same family dinner table, who are looking at different information and believe something completely different than you do. Anybody find that happen? Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's called fifth generation warfare. There's a whole conversation we could have on that. Psychological warfare, and then sometimes it can become kinetic. It doesn't have to. All of these are facets of the battle. Ultimately, you are the prize. You are the prize. And I want you to think about that. I want you to remember that. Why are you the prize? Because you are God eternal within the body. And if you ever forget that, you need look no further than the 50 trillion cells in your body, in the nucleus of every one of those cells, that tells you you're God eternal within the body. So when life brings a challenge to your doorstep and you feel small and powerless, as you've been conditioned, and I've been indoctrinated to feel, when that happens, I invite you to think to this conversation: how would God eternal within the body solve this problem? How would God eternal within the body heal this body? The illusion of the disease that this body is projecting. How would God eternal? How is my divinity reflected in what my body is showing me? And where you want to make the changes, that's your workshop. That's your workshop. We have
5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. Can I do 6 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. It's 6 minutes. That was quick. There were no pictures. It may not be what you're expecting to hear. I want to ask you, does it make sense, number one? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is it useful at all?
Yes.
Let's make it even more useful. What I'm going to invite you to do, we just did the talk. Let's have a little process. And I'm going to invite you. 1991, science discovered a neural network in the human heart that they never thought existed before. They're neurons like in the brain, but they're in the heart. Those neurons are literally tuned to a field of information. This is in the Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, peer-reviewed journal. Literally, it says that the physical heart is tuned to a field of information, listen to this, that is not bound by the laws of physics. Our heart is tuned to something that is not bound by space and time. That's where your divinity lives. That's where your all-knowing lives. Let's check in with that part of ourselves and see what is it that we can do, just one thing that we can do to honor the gift of our bodies, to honor our temple, to honor our humanness, to honor our divinity. Okay if we do that? Yes. And we're going to have some rhythm in here. Ginny and I are both musicians, and we're not doing this, and we've both had to do our own AV for years. All right, so you won't need any pencils, papers, iPads, iPhones. You can pull that down. Is this it right here?
Yeah.
That's it right there. Okay. And if you haven't done so already, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Allow your awareness to move from your thinking mind into your feeling heart. We come together as a community today to know ourselves in the presence of ourselves, of our collective divinity, that we've come to this world to share. We come to this world to love this world into a new world. And it's in this time, as we are laying the foundation for the new world, that we have the opportunity to heal, generational healing, the hurt and the fear and the suffering of the world that you and I have all come from. We don't want to carry that into the new world for our children and their children. This is why we're here. We invite you to touch your heart center gently, the way that feels comfortable to you. Allow your awareness to go to your heart. We're going to do a couple of deep breaths, and I'm going to invite you to breathe with me. It'll be a little longer on the release than the inhale. This awakens our parasympathetic nervous system. First breath, inhale, begin. And release. the shift in your body. Inhale. And release. One more time. Breathe in. And release. To the best of your ability, I'm going to invite you to continue breathing just about that pace, a little slower than usual. With our focus on our heart, breathing as if the breath is coming from our heart, I'm going to invite you to ask the wisdom of your heart a couple of questions. Begin the questions with the words, my heart. That's the first question. My heart, what is it that you need from me right now? My heart, what is it that you need from me right now? Just allow that answer to be present. Don't chase the answer. Allow it to come to you. My heart, second question. My heart, what do you want me to know right now? My heart, what do you want me to know right now? Whatever that answer is, it'll be short, it'll be brief, be concise. Just be present with whatever it is. Don't try to make sense out of it. Don't chase it. Third question. We are divine beings in physical bodies, living in the sensual world of touch, sound, sight and smell, rhythm. We live in a world of rhythm, the rhythms and the cycles of nature and of life. In the presence of that rhythm in these bodies, we invite you to ask, my heart, what is one thing that I can do today to honor the gift of my body, the temple that holds the power of my divinity? My body, what is the one thing that I can do to honor the gift that I've been given? To preserve this gift, to cherish this gift, to show my love for this gift. And just allow that answer to come to you, whatever it is. And be present with the answer. Maybe make a mental note so that it remains with you when you come back into the focus of this room. Before we leave this space, maybe you'd like to take the opportunity to thank your body. Thank you, my body, for the gift of life, the gift of my life that allows me to share my divinity, to love this world fearlessly, with passion. Thank you, my body. I invite you to take one more deep breath. Inhale. And as you release that breath, you begin to open your eyes and become present in the place that we find ourselves. This community that we've created for ourselves today. if this whole gig doesn't work out, we can be audio-visual techs.
No.
I want to thank you for, we've never done that before, without slides. And then, anyone, I'm just curious, what kind of answers did you get when you said, my heart, what do you need from me right now? Just anybody just shout it out.
I need love from you.
Love? Okay, so let me ask this, because we're in a field right here. How many people had the word love come to them? See, that's why you don't have to do it one at a time. On the front row, I can just tell you, there's a whole bunch of hands that went up. Yeah, because I think we all need that. What did your heart want you to know right now?
Share the love.
Shine your light.
Protected, shine your light. Those are hard answers. If you got an answer that said like, well, when you were 5 years old and you had this whole preamble, it's probably not coming from the heart. Heart answers are generally concise, direct, brief, sometimes just a word, sometimes just a phrase. Anybody have any instructions on or opportunities, suggestions on how you can honor your body today?
I do.
Rest.
I have a letter for you I wrote in January, and I want you to read.
Okay, I'll read that, thank you. Rest? Who said rest?
This is the third question.
Third question,
To see the divinity in the other.
See divinity in the other?
Take better care of myself.
To take better care of yourself.
I have a specific vision of an animal that I feel close to, that like I need to see that animal.
See the animal you feel close to.
Yeah.
Everybody's message is going to be different. And whatever that message is, and if it wasn't clear for you, go home and do it again. Now, I want you to know, when you do a process like that, and you're not, how many people are in the room approximately?
90.
90?
75.
So
75,
90-ish people, 75 to 90 people, but if you're within 3 to 5 feet of another human, which we all are, we're sharing a heart field. The heart field extends between 3 and 5 feet beyond the physical heart, because that's all the machines can measure. On the quantum level, we are infinite, but we are all connected. So when we're writing a heart field like this, sometimes those answers come really fast. If you're home alone, might feel different. So it's just different. I'm going to invite you not to judge it. Thank you for sharing that process with me, and Jenny, thank you for the time
Of
to
course, anytime.
complete that.
We're here.
Okay, next week, I'll see you next week.